What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris coming at you live on Monday morning from the man cave as always. And welcome to Monday morning in the man cave, you guys. It's about 10:30 in the morning here East Coast time. Drinking water. Too early again. I love beer, but I don't have a problem. And this morning, on Monday, first day off after a hard 3-day weekend at work in the 100-degree warehouse from your boy. Getting a slow start to the day. Pretty tired. Got a couple of days off. Wanted to do a few videos for you guys while I have the time. And on this Monday morning, just picked 5 albums out at random, 5 different genres that I just feel like talking about with you guys. For what, any particular reason. Just feel like talking about them. First one that I would like to talk about. Sure, everybody in the vinyl community is familiar with this one. The Rolling Stones, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, released in December 1967. Often divides a lot of critics and even a lot of, Stones fans in particular. A lot of the reason it catches so much flack, obviously, is because a lot of people see it as a direct response or imitation or even a ripoff. Some people have gone as far as to say of the Beatles' iconic Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The reviews initially out of the gate, of course, were terrible. I personally have always loved the album, and I know a lot of people I know, pretty much everybody I know, really, that likes the Stones, likes this album. But critics in 1967 and even in the years immediately following that, not so much. Basically shit all over it. Even the members of the Stones itself have gone as far as to shit on it. Of course, the title, interesting tidbit about the title is, Their Satanic Majesty's Request. I mean, that's a hell of a title. A lot of people would think, how did they even come up with that? Well, it's a play on Her Britannic Majesty's Request and Requires, which is on a British passport, I believe. If I'm a British passport or British brochure, I can't remember which. But it's a very interesting little fact and tidbit. In 1995, Mick Jagger said of Their Satanic Majesty's Request, "It's not very good. It had interesting things on it, but I don't think any of the songs are very good. There's 2 good songs on it, the rest are nonsense." I had to read that. I had to write that down directly. It's like, man, that's one thing I love about the guys in the Stones, though. And even, a lot of your older bands, they didn't bullshit. They just came right out and told you whether or not they liked their work or not. I mean, obviously, when they're on the promotional tour, doing their album or whatever, they're not going to come out and tell you shit. They're trying to make money. They're trying to sell it. But in retrospect, you go back and you ask them, and yeah, it sucks. I mean, hell, Mick is even critical. I've even read some critical statements by Mick on Exile on Main Street, which is, their most iconic album, probably. It's not my favorite, but I think it's, fair to say it's their most iconic. So if you can be critical of that one, then you can be critical of pretty much anything. But Keith Richards said, "This album is a load of crap." I think I had read that Keith liked 3 songs on the entire record. So I guess that would be one more than what Mick liked. I remember She's a Rainbow and I think Citadel, and maybe even Sing Us All Together, I can't remember, were the 3 that I think I read that Keith liked. I'm not positive. But I always found that to be very interesting. And in retrospect, the reviews the album have been way better. It's going on. I got a 50th anniversary, I think, box release that I wanted to get, and I never got around to getting it. I think it's still available, though. I need to jump on it. I should. And then last year it got a, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it got a record store day, like colored vinyl, splattered vinyl release treatment or something like that. Any of you guys, if you have that, or if I'm correct, let me know. Drop me a line. And if any of you have it, I'd be very interested to hear how that is. But again, I've always loved the album, and I know plenty of you guys here in the VC do as well. The Rolling Stones, Their Satanic Majesty's Request. This one will never not be in my collection. I'm going to listen to it in a little while, actually. I think a lot of times you guys see me do these 5 albums I just feel like talking about. The theme is basically going to be I just feel like listening to. So since I've pulled them out to listen to them, why not do a video and talk about them with you guys? Next up, one I wanted to talk about is this old classic here. At least it's a classic in my opinion. Electric Mud, Muddy Waters, the great Muddy Waters, the greatest blues man there ever was, in my humble opinion, my absolute favorite. One of the innovators, one of the true greats. I love Muddy. Anytime I can get my hands on on a Muddy record that I didn't already have, it's a great day. Electric Mud, released in October 1968, on Chess, obviously. Marshall Chess. This album, by the way, also, pretty controversial in that one of the all-time great blues men basically taking a shot at a psych rock record, essentially, and at least that's what it became to know as and because of that, it's been controversial. But I think I read one time that it's the highest-selling Muddy album ever on Chess. So, I mean, hell. Marshall Chess said, "I came up with the idea of Electric Mud to help Muddy make money. It wasn't to bastardize the blues. It was like a painting, and Muddy was going to be in the painting. It wasn't going to change his sound. It was a way to get into that market." And by that market, what he meant was the younger audience, because Muddy was an Asian blues man, a younger audience, get him exposed to a younger, hipper, the psychedelic, era. Think about it, it's October 1968, to kind of get him into that market, put a little money in his pocket, and I guess by extension, the label's pocket. But for, blues purists, obviously they shit all over it. Rolling Stone's Pete Welding said, "It does a great disservice to one of the blues' most important innovators and prostitutes the contemporary styles to which his pioneering efforts have led." Tell us how you really feel, Pete. I disagree all the way across the board, obviously. Got terrible reviews in the States, and it was well received and loved in Britain. And I was, giving that some thought, and I know why that is, I believe, because the blues wasn't born in Britain. The blues was born here, and so we're expecting all of our blues to be that traditional, stick to the way it's supposed to be, kind of thing. And anytime anybody wants to go and do something a little different in one of our great, genres, they usually catch shit right out the gate. Think about when Dylan went electric. Dylan, got booed at his own damn concerts and heckled at his own concerts, and then threw the heckling right back when he first went electric. Now, in retrospect, you look at it as like, hey, maybe that Bob Dylan guy knew what he was doing, because it led to some of the greatest music of his career and most well-renowned and most famous music of his career. But at the very beginning, the folk purist hated that shit. Hated that he did it. John Coltrane. When John Coltrane went avant-garde, when John Coltrane went freeform, went free jazz, the jazz purists and the jazz critics shit all over it. Even though, Train had paid his dues, he came in, he played the hard bop, he played, he played on so many just, the purest jazz records. And keep in mind, hard bop's my favorite jazz. I embrace all types of jazz, but hard bop is absolutely my favorite, no doubt about it, and that's my favorite Coltrane. But I like the Coltrane free stuff too. I like that he took a shot. I like that he went and tried to innovate and do some stuff different. I like that from my artist. But the purists hated that shit. The purists and originally the critics. So, think about it. My favorite blues man ever, Muddy Waters, got shit all over for trying something different. One of my all-time favorite solo artists, in any genre, Bob Dylan, tries something different, gets shit all over. And my absolute favorite artist, period, but definitely my favorite jazz guy, John Coltrane, tries something different, shit all over. And these are three of the greatest musicians that ever lived. Shit all over for trying something different, for going outside of what was considered, what people thought was supposed to be the lane. And that just sucks to me. Man, if everything, sounded exactly the same forever, I mean, and a lot of times, an artist will try something different. An artist that I like will try something different. And even if I don't like it, I'll be like, you know what? Kudos to them for trying to branch out, for trying to innovate with their sound, for trying to move forward, for trying to progress. And then I'll at least, if they make an album that sounds exactly like the three albums preceding it and it's shitty, then it's like, and you did the same thing you've been doing and it still sucks. And I don't respect that as much. I would rather it suck because they took a shot. It's just my personal opinion. The next one up is going to surprise you guys. It's definitely one that you've never heard me speak about on here. And to be completely honest with you, it's going to be one that a lot of you aren't familiar with. I'm sure anyway. A lot of you will be familiar with the name of the artist. This one is Dierks Bentley, Up on the Ridge. And, okay, I hate modern country. I love country music, but I hate modern country. I hate the bro country shit. Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan and Bobby and Shay and fucking Florida Georgia Line. I hate that stuff. It's garbage to me. It's pop country. It's rock. It's rock and roll music with a southern accent, but not. It's like shitty rock pop with a southern accent. What's on the radio? Now, I cannot listen to modern country radio, but a lot of times I would throw Dierks in with that, even though not the bro country, but just the poppy rocky country. Definitely always had some songs I like no matter what. But this one, after he'd had 2 or 3 albums out, he decided to go out and do a bluegrass album, which is what this is. And it's got a lot of great stuff on it, man. This is just basically a pure bluegrass album. Lead single, Up on the Ridge, got the banjo in it. Got Senor featuring Chris Talla, the Punch Brothers. Some of you guys, if you're familiar at all with bluegrass, would know who the Punch Brothers are. Roving Gambler, great bluegrass song. It's a song on here called Bad Angel, which is probably my favorite moment on the album. It features Miranda Lambert and Jamey Johnson. And Jamey Johnson, of course, isn't going to be on anything that's not pure country. He's one of the few pure country guys still going. But he put this one out, and my wife and I loved it. Put it out in 2010. So, I had long since given up on modern country music, but this came out and I heard it. I loved it. I bought the CD, got the record. My wife and I played a hole in it. I basically lost my CD to my wife. I took it in her car one time. I didn't get that CD back. It's still in her car as far as I know. But I have this record. But I love it. For some of you guys who had long since given up on any kind of modern-ish kind of country, or people who like your bluegrass and your country mix, I highly recommend Dierks Bentley, Up on the Ridge. But for any of you guys who aren't familiar with Dierks Bentley or aren't so much aware of who he is as an artist, I'm not saying if you like the bluegrass, don't go out and buy his entire discography without stringing it, because the whole thing don't sound like this. The album he put out right after this is called Black. The last real vacation my wife and I got to go to was almost 3 years ago. Yeah, I know, 3 years. In Nashville. And we're at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and we know, like, the day after that, we know that we've got a long drive to get back to Asheville, North Carolina, where we were actually staying the next couple of days after that. And so we're in the Country Music Hall of Fame, we're in the gift shop, and you're like, okay, well, let's buy us a couple of CDs to listen to, some new stuff. We're here, we're in the moment. And the young lady behind the counter, we should have known better. But we loved this album so much, and it was the album he had out before that. But she's like, have you guys heard the new Dierks Bentley album? It's called Black. She's like, it's so good, I can't stop listening to it. I probably should have known better. She's like 20 years old. But I don't ever like to assume that a 20-year-old doesn't know good music, because I did, and I got plenty of 20-year-old friends who do. So I didn't want to assume that. I'm like, okay, the last album I loved, let's go for it. We got it, and it just sounded like a rock, pop, country, modern radio record, and I haven't listened to it since. Like, damn it, Dierks, I was hoping you'd keep on doing the same thing you did on Up on the Ridge, but he didn't. But I've been told, for some of you guys who like this one now, I feel bad to throw a name of an album out that I haven't heard, but I've been told that his most recent album that just came out is called The Mountain, and it's supposed to be a return to this style. but with a little rock, classic rock vibe thrown in, is what I've been told. I haven't heard anything on it, but I've been told by some people who know that I love this. I've been told, hey man, give that one a try, because if you liked Up on the Ridge, you should like this one. And it's a little rockier than Up on the Ridge, but it's definitely got what you're looking for. So I'm actually, when I was digging through this, reminded me, that, hey, I never did go out and give that album a try. So after I give that album a try, I'll shout at you guys for sure on a future video and let you know. Because if I screen it and I like it as much as I do this, I'll just go ahead and buy it. And I have already found out that it is available on vinyl. So if I screen it and I like it, I'll just buy it. Next up, hip hop album I want to talk to you guys about, which was so heavy in my rotation when I was a teenager. And to this day, I still know every lyric on it. When I was, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, I listened to a lot of hip hop, lots. And this one, some of you guys who listen to hip hop will be familiar, especially if you're around about my age, you'll be able to remember when it came out. And this is Mase's Harlem World. It came out in 1997. This is an original promo copy. Not sure it's been original. Not sure it's been reissued. It's got a white promo label on it. But, man, this was when Bad Boy Records was just on top of the world. Not too long, of course, after the tragic and untimely death of the great Notorious B.I.G., in my opinion, the best that ever did it, the best to ever touch a mic. But, Mase himself, of course, well, you'll know, a lot of you will remember when he first came to stardom, was on Biggie's last album, Life After Death, on Mo Money, Mo Problems. Couldn't escape it. It was all over the radio. He was in that video with Puffy in those shiny ass suits, dancing and everything like that. It was one of those. Bad Boy just did videos back then. They did them up. I would love to know what their video budget was back in the late '90s. But this one, for some of you guys, they got looking at me. Why you over there looking at me? Why my girl standing here? Some of you will remember that if you're around about my age. And then, of course, Love You So is on here. Feels So Good. 24 Hours to Live. Really, 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 really great guest spots on this album. DMX is on this album on a couple tracks. Lil' Kim's on this one. 8Ball and MJG, Busta Rhymes is on this one. Jay-Z is on this one. The Lox and Black Rob are on this one. It's a lot of guest spots. There's not a bad track on the album, in my opinion, and it's a hip-hop album I'll always keep in my collection. I really just love this one, of course. The album that he put out after this one's called Double Up. Not nearly as good. He tried to return more to the street roots on it. I still like it. It didn't sell as well. And then, of course, shortly after that, some of you guys who know your hip-hop will know, Mase retired from hip-hop to become a minister. And made a good name for himself as a minister. Attempted a brief comeback a few years, I believe, after Double Up. He put out one album. It was hip hop, but it was clean. There was no cursing or anything like that on it, which is fine, as long as it's good. And I bought it and I actually enjoyed it. On CD, I've never had it on vinyl. Then he left again, and every so often, in the years after that, he'd pop up on a remix or something every now and then by an established artist in the game, and do his thing. And it's always been a teased comeback of hooking back up and putting out another album, but I don't think it ever really manifested itself. At least if it has, I'm not aware. For some of you guys, if you know better than that about me, if you know whether or not something like that manifested itself, because my ear is not as close to the modern hip hop scene as it used to be. But I'll always follow my favorite artist, and him, of course, being one of my all-time favorites. I know a lot of guys who like a lot of the harder stuff used to give me hell about that because Mase is a pretty boy. And anyway, I love that album. I'll always love that album. Finally, number 5 album I just felt like talking about today. I can't sing the praises of this one enough. You guys knew you weren't going to see a video from me that didn't include a jazz album, and I've talked about this one several times on here, of course. This here is Bobby Timmons, and it's on Riverside. And it includes Bobby Timmons, of course, on the piano, one of the great, underappreciated pianists, jazz artist, period. His contribution to piano, to jazz music in general, is just so underappreciated, and it damn near makes me sick. But Bobby Timmons on the keys, Sam Jones on the bass, Jimmy Cobb on the drums, and New York, January 13th and 14th of 1960. Of course, for some of you who aren't going to be familiar with Bobby Timmons, the name just off the jump, he is the composer of Moanin' on Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, self-titled, which has, of course, become known in recent, ever since as Moanin'. I mean, it's the unofficial title, basically, of the album, even though the album is self-titled. I cannot recommend this album enough, guys. If you're a jazz fan, like I am, or if you're a fan of the piano, hell, if you just like, Moanin' on Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, get this into your life, guys. Look out for it. It came out in 1960 on Riverside. Of course, my original mono press. It's one of my favorite records in my collection, guys. No bullshit. That gorgeous blue Riverside label. I cannot recommend this record enough. Every time I have a friend that starts getting into jazz, and they, it's always in the first, it's like in the second or third handful of records that I recommend they go out and get, because the first thing you got to throw new people to jazz is you got to throw them the names. You got to throw them Miles and Train and Blakey and Monk. I mean, because you got to throw them the names first, and then once they get into the names, then you start giving them guys like, and while he's a name to me, he wasn't a name to me at first. I'd never heard of him. I had to get into him. My buddy Marcus recommended Bobby Timmons to me. And the only thing he had to tell me to sell me on it was that, A, it was one of his personal favorites, which is enough for me because the guy's got insane knowledge and insanely good taste. That it was one of his favorites and that he composed Moanin'. And I was like, oh, hell. Well, I've got to get that into my life then. Since then, it's became a goal of mine to have every album Timmons ever played on. And I'm almost there. Again, get it into your life, guys. Got to get it into your life. All right, anyway. So, Monday morning in the man cave. Wanted to do real quick. Wanted to give you guys 5 albums I just felt like talking about. And again, the way I usually roll on stuff like this, the way I usually wag and wheel is if I feel like talking about them, it means I usually feel like listening to them. So that's probably what's getting ready to go down here. I got a full day in the man cave. Probably not going to be the last video that you see from me today. So until next time, until next video, keep dropping that needle, you guys.